Well, that's what they're trying to say. All these laws that are being created right now, again, are unconstitutional. We need to challenge these laws in court. Just today, I was at the Bahraini embassy protesting the detainment of Al-Khawaja, and a man threw his shoe over the fence. It was a shoe. They grabbed the man. We started to film them grabbing the man, and they told us we can't film. Well, the law says that we absolutely have the right to film the police in their job. I don't understand why the American public is giving in at this moment to losing its rights. Mumia Abu Jamal, who is a political prisoner in the United States, who was just recently taken off death row, came out and said 10 years ago, none of these laws that we're losing, none of these rights that we're losing every single day in this country, these were called illegal back 10, 15 years ago. Now suddenly they're becoming mainstream. Police are telling us rules that you can't do this, you can do that. And we all know the rules. The rules are the people own the streets, we pay for them, we have a right to peacefully protest in this country, we have a right to film in this country, and we're going to reserve that right no matter what it takes. And that's why the protest movement, that's why Occupy, the American Spring, is on the streets every single day, protecting American rights, and we need to continue this effort every single day.
And of course, we're trying to understand why this has all come about. Gordon Duff, is it the natural outcome of George W. Bush's Patriot Act, his war on terror? I'm sure you're well aware of the wiretapping of American citizens by the National Security Agency, and of course, violations of civil rights.
The wiretapping laws passed during the Bush administration were overturned. I actually have on our staff at Veterans Today, 30% of the members are on no-fly lists, terror lists, or have been arrested at one time or another. That's of a staff of 150. What I have been learning in rumblings, and we're an intelligence organization as much as anything else. I'm an intelligence defense contractor. The chatter, the feeling we have is that these laws are being passed because the government is planning a new 9/11, a new attack of some kind, and they're preparing a response to something they plan on doing. There would be no reason for any of this unless there were something in the wind, and the only organizations capable of acts of terrorism against the United States are our own government. We have found every domestic terror organization in the U.S. We had a recent trial in Michigan where a judge had learned this, that an organization they had tried to break up as a terrorist organization, the Houthis, were actually run by the FBI. Anytime we have a domestic terror act of some kind, we find an FBI agent is behind it. A lot of us are very suspicious about the Oklahoma bombings. We don't know how many Americans have strong questions about 9/11, but we think the number is very significant. When they asked Australians, it was 79% that doubted the American story there. So we don't trust our own government, and we expect them to do something in some way to stimulate simulated insurrection.
Dr. Jones, it appears from all these different points that we talked about that America and the government has decided, in a sense, that the battle is now need to be waged inside its own territory. And it was interesting that back in 2008, the Pentagon said that it will deploy 20,000 troops inside the U.S. for civil unrest. Where is the civil unrest paranoia coming from if it was back from 2008? It kind of makes it appear that America has been inching towards what many are calling a police state. Is that true? Can you tell us the reasons behind that?
I think the government has always been willing to act against its own citizens, or let's say ever since World War II, let's say. But the difference now is that those methods don't work anymore. Those methods were very effective. Taken all together, you would call them social engineering. I did a book called The Slaughter of Cities, which was about the destruction ethnic neighborhoods throughout the United States, mostly the north and the east parts of the United States. That was the government acting against its own people, but it was very effective because nobody knew what was going on. I think what you're seeing here, as it gets more overt, it becomes less effective. I think that's the trade-off that they have to make here. I was in Poland right after the fall of the Berlin Wall, and everybody in Poland just thought you were a hero because you were an American, because the system seemed to work all by itself without this type of heavy-handed interference. Well, the trade-off that they're making now is the more that they interfere heavy-handedly, the more they lose the minds of the people that they're trying to persuade, and they're not as effective as the old methods, which I think were bad, but were covert and more effective. And so as a result, you're going to see people disconnecting from the regime and disconnecting their allegiance from the regime and reconnecting, I think, to small local communities. It happens all the time. It happened in the Roman Empire when Christianity rose up and took over its place. People stopped worrying about the wars in Asia, and they started concentrating on their own little Christian communities instead.
Tiberius, it sounds like Dr. Jones perhaps is talking about this Occupy movement, because that's how people are disassociating themselves, as Dr. Jones says, from the regime, and then joining in from what we've seen, the Occupy movement being the biggest movement since the 1960s. So is the rescue going to be from the Occupy movement? At least they are standing for the U.S. Fifth Amendment, which guarantees that no American citizen shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
We see the Occupy movement as growing right now, growing in numbers. We also see the occupying of people's homes that have been foreclosed on. We see the occupying of banks nowadays. We see the occupying of Social Security offices. We see the occupying of hospitals when people are taken into hospitals and not given health care. You're going to see a rise in all these situations in the United States. But I will tell you that I believe, not only from the Occupy movement, but from the people itself, the American public is not in tune with this regime that says that the 99% are going to have total control on our lives, on every aspect of the way we can go to hospital, way we can have education, way we can live in our own homes. And this is a police state right now, and we must resist the police state, and we will resist the police state. The problem is we're afraid that this government could get to be a little too violent and start murdering its own people. This is where we've got to draw the line. Our representatives in Washington, D.C., as weak as they are, have to start standing up for the people and say no more to these draconian laws that deny the people everyday rights and that cause these paramilitary groups to take to the streets. And like you see these stand-up laws like in Florida, where now there are individuals who feel they can arm themselves and shoot at anybody they want, and they don't have to divulge their names of police activities where they're killing people. This kind of activity has to stop, and we're calling on the Obama regime to end this. He came for change. If he wants to have any legacy at all, it'll be to stop these draconian laws that are being passed.
Gordon Duff, quickly, in 30 seconds or less, the Trayvon Martin case has gripped the United States. Is there chances of civil unrest breaking out in that respect?
There's a very high chance. Currently, George Zimmerman is in hiding. He has left the state of Florida. He has no legal representation. No one knows where he is. There are some interesting questions about this because we investigated his background, and according to his records, he had attended the Seminole County Police Academy. When you listen to the audio tapes, it's like he's talking to someone he doesn't know. We have a lot of interesting questions about this, but the most obvious take on this is it was a simple execution slaying. He was brought into a police station under arrest. He was released for political reasons. He has family members that were involved in police and judiciary in the Washington, D.C. area, and we smell signs of the hand of government interference in this case.
Okay, thank you very much. Senior editor of Veterans Today, Gordon Duff. We appreciate that. Also, let me thank editor of Cultural Wars magazine, Dr. E. Michael Jones from South Bend, Indiana, and from Coat Ping, Ty Berry from Washington. And thank you, the viewer, for watching another edition of the Press TV News Analysis. Newsroom@presstv.ir is our email address for any questions or suggestions from Miko Batavia and the entire team. It's goodbye.